Hello everyone, welcome back, and today we are going to discuss how to play the Sicilian defense with the black pieces by looking at the game of Magnus Carlsen. And you can consider this as a very critical modern game, which was the game between David Navarro versus Magnus Carlsen. And this game is the Sicilian defense in the Sveshnikov variation, and I personally recommend this particular variation, and all the Sicilian players who likes to play the Sicilian with the black pieces, this video is going to be very critical for them to watch. So I hope that you guys enjoy. So let's check it out. So David Navarro with the white pieces opens the game with 1 e4. But before jumping into the game, I want to tell you some basics for all those who don't know. White plays e4, black plays e5, knight f3, knight to c6, d4 takes knight into d4, and here black plays knight to f6, hitting the pawn on e4. So white plays knight to c3 in order to defend the pawn on e4, and on the move number 6, black plays the move e5. And this particular move is known as the Sicilian Sveshnikov variation. And here the main move is to play knight b5. But I want to discuss what happens if white tries to go knight to f3 or knight to b3. If white goes back with a knight to f3 in this position, now black can simply put the bishop to b4, pinning up the knight, and the position is already slightly better for black. I'm going to explain you how. White tries to play bishop d3 in order to defend the pawn on e4, because on the next move black can simply capture the pawn on e4. So bishop d3 is kind of the fourth move, and now comes bishop into c3 simply, and after takes, black is first going to play d6, because if you try to castle in this position, now bishop a3 can also be a move, though it doesn't matter really. But d6 is a much open move. Short castle, and after a couple moves like h3, stopping this bishop g4 idea, now black is going to put the bishop on e6, bishop a3, h6, rook e1, queen c7. And this is going to be the black's setup, original setup, and black is going to simply put the rook to d8, followed by another rook to c8, and going to put the pressure on the c3 pawn. And black, after putting the rook to c8 and putting the rook to d8, black can simply put the knight to a5 and put the knight to c4, and the position is already pleasant for black in this position, and black is having no real issues. And now jumping into, after e5, if black goes back with knight to b3, now black can again put the bishop to b4, and after bishop d3, a powerful move is to play d5, opening up the position, and after takes, knight d5, bishop d2 in order to defend the knight. Knight takes, pawn takes, and simply coming back with the bishop to e7, the position is already slightly better for black. The position is open, black is having no real weaknesses, so white is having the weakness on c2, c3 isolated pawn, as well as the isolated pawn on a2, and the position is open, black can even castle. The position is extremely pleasant for black. Black have already equalized from the start. So this was the basic theory. Now coming into the game, David Navarro with white pieces starts with 1 e4. And Magnus with the black pieces replies with c5. Knight f3, knight to c6, d4 takes, knight to f6, knight to c3, e5, the Sveshnikov. And the main move, knight to b5 was played. The white's idea is to play the move knight to d6. So black stops it by playing d6, knight to d5. White's idea is to play knight to c7. So black have to capture the knight here, and after pawn takes. Now here's my first question. What are you going to play in this position from the black side? So if you're a Sicilian player, it's going to be a very natural move for you. But if you are not, it's going to be a very critical move for you. So what are you going to play in this position from the black side? So all those who have came up with the move knight to b8, it's a very typical move and a very natural move in this position, because you basically want to maneuver the knight to d7 or via c5. So all those who have think of something like, I don't know, queen f5 check, it's not working, guys, because of bishop d2. It simply hits the queen, and the knight is also hanging, and the knight is successfully defended by the bishop. So yeah. So after pawn takes, Magnus simply comes back with the knight, and here a4 by white, by David Navarro. So now it's a move that a bit hard to understand for the beginners, like what's happening in this position. But you're going to soon realize what is the idea of playing the move a4. The general idea of playing rook a4 in this position is white wants to put the rook to a3, and once black castles, white can simply maneuver the rook onto the king side. It's a very deep idea. So all those who want to see something from the white side, I guess it's gonna be a good idea for them. So after e4, Carlsen simply develops with bishop e7, bishop e2 short castle, and here comes the move knight to d7. So Magnus Carlsen is sticking to his plan. He's not making any unnecessary move. You can just look at the position. He maneuvered the knight to d7 via b8, and the position is already very pleasant for black. But if you're a beginner, a complete beginner, you must be thinking like white is already having some large amount of space in the center, and black's d6 pawns look a slight weakness. But guys, d6 pawn is definitely a slight weakness, but you can't really attack the pawns. It's not really that much weak. So after knight d7, white plays the move king h1. And the idea of playing king h1 is white wants to input the move f4 in the position. And basically, first making the king safe and now playing the move f4. So first Magnus plays the move a6 hitting the knight. And now he plays the move a5. So generally a5 is met when white plays the move a4 so that to stop white from expanding on the queen side. But yeah, okay, the a5 idea is also very deep. The idea of a5 is to put the knight to c5 so that to stop the move b4, because a5 is currently covering the b4 square. So that's the real idea. So white sticks to his plan and went for the move f4. And here in this many players in this particular position tries to do something like white played a move like f4 and it looks very critical. So many players likes to capture the pawn, many players likes to push the pawn, and many players like to defend the pawn, although it's still defended, but many players still like to defend it. I don't know how, but bishop f6 can be a way, though it's a completely bad move. But guys, you can just think here that if white captures the pawn, you can capture with the knight. So that's no real issue. So Magnus simply plays the move f5. First, stopping white from playing the move f5, and now counter-attacking by playing the move f5. So that's the basic fundamental that many players get confused it after knowing the fundamentals. So after f5, if white tries to capture the pawn, you can simply capture with the knight, and the position is already very harmonious for black. Black can play d6 followed by bishop a6, and the position is extremely fine, and followed by, I guess, king h8, g5 can also be an idea. The position is very flexible and very sharp for black. So after f5, white puts the knight to c4. A very natural approach, you are hitting the pawn on d5, e5, and putting the pressure on the pawn on d6. b6 by Magnus. Perhaps the idea is to play bishop a6 and get rid of the knight from the c4 square, because the c4 knight is extremely powerful. Rook a3 by David. As I said, that this is the basic idea, fundamental idea. And here Magnus decides to capture the pawn on f4. Bishop into f4. And many players, again in this particular position, whenever someone captures, they get confused like how to recapture the pawn on f4. And many players go for capturing the pawn with the rook u, though it's a bad move. So talking about the fundamental, like the rook is already well active, I would say, on f1, and the bishop is not yet activated. So basically capturing with the bishop makes the most logical move, because you are developing the bishop and the rook is also very well active. So basically white's position is perfect. So bishop into f4, the position looks pretty much unpleasant for black at a first glance, because the d6 pawn is weak, the b6 pawn is weak. But okay, the position is equal. Black plays the move knight to c5, and the basic point of playing the move knight c5 and the position is equal because nothing is happening. Though b6 and d6 pawn are weak, but you can't really exploit them. And if you can't exploit any weakness, then you can't consider it as a weakness. So after knight c5, the knight is having a very nice square on the c5. You can't play the move b4 because it is defended. Rook to e3 by David. A much better move at the place of rook e3 would have been to play rook to g3. So that after g6, the game can continue very commonly, very nicely. But after rook e3, here's my second question. What are you going to play in this position from the black side? Try to find the best move in this position from black. Okay, so all those came up with the move G5, a very sharp move, a very sharp vision. You are extremely fearless, I guess. G5 simply hitting the bishop. If you come back with the bishop, F4 is completely winning because you are losing a piece. So you have to capture. You have to capture E7. And here's my third question. What are you going to play in this position from the black side again? So all those smart guys who thought of capturing the rook, getting a bit greedy, it's not a good idea, guys, because after bishop into d6, the bishop is defended by the knight, and after you move the queen, white can simply capture the rook, and after, I don't know, king takes, white is already winning in this position because of the extremely powerful d5 pawn, and materially wise, talking about material, black is having 5 pawns, and white is having 6 pawns, so a pawn up, and a completely winning position. So basically, after rook into e7, you must capture the bishop in this position so that the rook is currently attacked. And not only attacked, but the rook is actually trapped on e7. So rook to e6 was played, at least getting an exchange. Bishop into e6, and many players think like, it's winning now, so let's close the video. Guys, the game is going to be interesting and very complicated. Like, here's the critical point. Like, how to convert a winning failed Many players just get failed to convert a winning position. It's not a completely losing position. The game is played, and like a rook into f4, bishop into, king here, g4. What are you going to play in this position? Capture the pawn. It's a bad move because queen d4 wins the game for white. You lose because everything is covered. You have to put the rook in between, but you just lose a piece, and soon you are going to get mated. So that's the basic fundamental for all those who skip the video, I guess. After g4, queen f6 was played. So basically, winning a better game is the main point in this video, because many players get a winning position, get a better position, get material advantage, but in the end they fail to win the game. Perhaps they drew, perhaps they lose. But like, converting a winning position is the most critical part in the game of chess. Queen f6. Here we have c3 because black is currently hitting the pawn on b2. c3, queen to d5, queen to e5, queen to f1. You can't capture because you lose the rook. So rook to e8, simply activating the pieces, getting pieces into the game. Pawn takes, rook to f6. The idea of playing rook f6 is to simply block the pawn, or else pawn will simply march forward, and once the pawn reaches f7 protected by the bishop, it's going to be very critical for black. So first chopping it, queen f2, queen c5 because the queen was hitting the b6 pawn, queen c5, king g2, check. And many players are thinking, why not capture the queen? You can capture, it's a fine move, but basic point is, if white captures the queen in this position, then you can capture with the b pawn, and here black's idea is to simply put the rook to e5, pushing the pawn to e5 or d5, and simply getting a pass pawn, because you can simply break through and get your own pass pawn, and you are simply going to win the game. Capturing the d pawn is not a good idea because you are simply keeping the same structure. The bishop protects the pawn. It's going to be a bit difficult for them. That's the point. White is not capturing the queen. A check was played, but soon Magnus captured the queen. Rook takes, and now comes rook to e4, hitting the bishop. Bishop move and capturing the pawn. White can also defend the pawn like this, but after rook g4 check, king move, rook h4. The position is still winning for black because black can simply march the king like this, capture the pawn, and can simply win the game. But there's a question in my mind, like, I think practically if David Navarra would have captured the queen with the king, it would have been slightly more accurate, because after rook e5, bishop d3, defending the pawn, you can't play the bishop over here because after takes, you lose the rook. So bishop d3 and after rook h6, h4, it's very hard for black to continue the game. Like after king g7, rook g4 check. If you play king f6, I don't know, but the rook is simply stuck. You can't do anything. So I guess it would have been a much more better try, but though it's still winning for black. Rook into f2, rook to e4, takes king g7, and white suddenly got some activity, but Magnus kept his nerve, capturing the pawn, king g5, f6. You can't capture because of bishop to here and you lose the rook. And eventually lose the game. So after f6, rook check, rook come, check, and capturing the pawn, bishop to g4, push, king g6, c5, and like I love this move, particularly a3. Simply the idea of Magnus is simply to break this connected pawns. You can't really play b4 because white black will make a queen. So you have to capture the pawn, and now comes the move h5, hitting the bishop. Rook came. You can capture the rook, but you will only give white the connected pass pawn, which is not a good idea, though it's still winning. Rook comes back, bishop goes back, rook comes hitting the bishop, and after a couple of moves, you have to trade the rook. And now comes h4, a very strong move. You can't capture, you lose the rook. You can't capture with the rook because you lose the bishop. So king move takes, capturing the pawn, and it's winning position. As you can see, takes h2, and on the move number 58, David Noara decides to resign the game, and Magnus Carlsen won the game. A very beautiful, instructive game, I would say. The reason is c7, and this is the queen, and eventually black. After a couple of moves like this, queen b7, and this is winning. After king d7, you can play the move king f7, king here. You can play the move queen d5 check, queen b5, and queen e8 mate. So this was the game. I guess that this game was particularly very instructive and helped you guys to improve your chess level skills, especially for all the Sicilian players. If it did help, then make sure to like the video, share this video with everyone, especially to the Sicilian players. And I'm going to come up with these instructive videos like this. If you want any particular game, any particular model game in a particular opening you are going to play, or else you play, then you can just tell me in the comment box below. I'm going to come up with that particular game. So I'm going to see you guys soon. Till then, stay tuned and keep watching One Shot Chess.